In the last video, picks 11 through 20 were held by teams that are mostly heading towards or are in the playoff picture. For the picks in this video, these are teams that are firmly in the playoff race, gearing up for a playoff berth, division win, pennant win, and ultimately a World Series ring. With that in mind, some people think that drafting at this time isn't really that important to land a hit. That could be farther from the truth, as college players can definitely provide reinforcements as contention goes on. Although I have some teams drafting high school, these are teams that are gearing up for the next wave of prospects. So with all of that said, we start off with the Cardinals. I mentioned how sometimes there may be high schoolers in this episode, and this is one of those teams. They've had no biases for their draft strategy, but they have a pretty clear need in the system. Although with the Cardinals you can never count any prospect out, there's not much middle infield talent down there. Sure, Wong and DeYoung are both quality players, but they ultimately might not matter with the development curve of a high school player. In this case, the Cardinals luck out incredibly well by filling both team needs and getting an elite prospect to fall into their laps with Ed Howard. The main draw about Howard is how fantastic he is defensively. He's got great range, good hands, fantastic IQ, solid athleticism, and a strong arm. Offensively, he isn't special, but it isn't a weak point either, and he could become an all-around great shortstop as he develops. Basically, the Cardinals would either get another strong shortstop for the future, or they have a very valuable trade chip. No losing here. Next up is the Washington Nationals, who are the defending World Series champs, but don't have the best farm system. As the defending champs, their MLB roster isn't very concerning, other than a couple of players aging. They've drafted primarily college players with no positional biases, and it would make sense to go college again so that they can get reinforcements as quickly as possible. Farm system-wise, pitching is the least of their concerns with 17 pitchers to 13 positional players. Of the remaining 13, 4 of them are catchers, 4 are middle infielders, 4 are outfielders being wrapped up with 1 corner infielder. So pretty clearly, it's pretty balanced with the exception of corner infielders. So with my pick, I'm going with Austin Wells from Arizona. You may think I'm crazy for adding another catcher into the system, but keep in mind I'm not drafting him as a catcher, but as an offensive weapon. Austin Wells consistently hits over 300 and has some nice pop to go along with this. Defensively, he's been a catcher, but it's often thought he'll go the Schwarber route, as he's not very great defensively. So the Nationals would be taking Wells with the intention of moving him to first or left and becoming a new offensive weapon in the farm. For the next pick, the Indians have a clear preference for high school players. They haven't drafted a college player since 2014, and I don't see them changing here with the options available. Cleveland is in an interesting boat as a team that just barely missed the playoffs last year while having some contract disputes with stars like Francisco Lindor. Pitching is solid within the Cleveland system with a strong rotation and some really interesting pitchers in the farm system. Positionally, infield is pretty much set with it being solid at the MLB level, as well as having 2 strong prospects in Jones and Freeman. So who do I choose with this in mind? High school catcher Tyler Soderstrom. Now like the Nationals, I'm drafting Soderstrom with the intention of him being an offensive weapon. Bo Naylor is most definitely their catcher of their future, but Soderstrom has a strong hitting skill and some great athleticism. I could see the Indians drafting Soderstrom with the same intentions they had with Mejia back in 2018, and what I mean by this is to have him alternate reps at catcher and other positions to find a good fit for his skill set. Moving on, our next team is the Rays, which is quite possibly the best team you could be drafted by development-wise. Since 2016, the Rays have had a pattern of drafting college then high school, with a majority of their first-round picks turning into fantastic farm prospects. With this history of success, their strategy shouldn't be changing anytime soon, and 2020 is the year to draft out of high school. The Rays, being a fantastic system overall, don't have any huge weaknesses. They have a very strong positional core at the MLB level, and a mix of quality middle infielders down on the farm. They have some promising pitching at the MLB level, but are also backed up there with one of the best pitching farms in the game. So what could the Rays use? With this draft not being very outfielder friendly, I take third base prospect Jordan Walker. With a 6'5", 220-pound frame, he's got a lot of power potential for teams to get excited about. Although he does currently have a weakness in the fielding department, he still possesses a strong arm to work at third base, and worst case, could be moved to right field. His main draw is his offensive potential, of course, and in a system that lacks quarter infielders, Walker could be a great selection for the Rays. The next selection is the Braves, who have historically gone with mostly high school players, but have gone down the college path recently. They do primarily seem to draft pitchers, which definitely shows in their system with strong pitching developments. So you may think I'm crazy for drafting a pitcher here, but let me explain. As much as the Braves have so many quality pitching prospects in their system, a lot of them will be graduating to the MLB soon. They need to prepare for the next waves of Braves prospects, and pitching will be needed there too. No matter what, pitching is always needed, whether it be for the Braves or for other teams. The Braves have so many pitchers coming up, and they can effectively use those pitchers for themselves or as trade chips to improve at other positions. With all of that, I have the Braves looking inward and drafting Georgia's Cole Wilcox. Overshadowed by Emerson Hancock, Wilcox himself has some fantastic stuff to be excited about. Armed with a hard mid-90s fastball and quality mid-80s sliders and changeups, Wilcox has some fantastic pitches within his arm. Like Cavalli in the previous video, his fantastic stuff comes at the cost of some control, but if the Braves can rein that in, they have yet another pitching prospect to be excited about. Up next is the A's, who very predominantly choose college players, so there's no question there. For what they need positionally, there's not much question there either, with pitching being the clear need. Only 13 of their top 30 prospects are pitchers, and with Luzardo and Puck graduating soon, they will be left with no high potential pitching farm-wise. So with all their quality pitching at the MLB level and the A's history of not keeping players, obviously they need to restock in the pitching department. So who comes to mind as the next best A's pitching prospect? That would be Bryce Jarvis out of Duke. After throwing a perfect game earlier this year, he has surged up draft boards after people started realizing how quality his stuff is. A mid-90s fastball, a fantastic changeup, as well as having both a solid slider and a curveball, he has a lot of weapons to work with. His only flaw is his age at 22, but with his weapons and his ability to control them well, he should move up quickly. Next up is the Twins, who share similarities with the A's in their need for pitching. Like the A's, the Twins don't have much pitching at the farm level, with only 12 of their top 30 being pitchers. At the big league level, Berríos remains their only top quality pitcher that was developed by the Twins themselves. So it's obvious that they should go with pitching, and there's no biases really for where that comes from. Although they haven't been drafting pitching in the first round since 2015, I think the need is strong enough to warrant changing that in 2020. So who do I got? I got the Twins drafting Bobby Miller from Louisville. Like Wilcox earlier, Miller has been overshadowed at Louisville by Reed Detmers, but is still quality himself. With a mid-90s fastball, a great slider-cutter mix, a solid changeup, and a developing splitter, he has the weapons to get your interest. He has had some control issues like many pitchers in this video, but his pitches and his 6'5" frame makes him into a quality pitcher to look into. Here comes the Yankees, who've had a pattern like the Rays, alternating from college and high school selections. This year is the year of the college player, so that's where I'll be drafting from. Looking at both the Yankees' balance at the MLB and farm level, best available seems to be the best choice, and that happens to be pitcher Tanner Burns. Although no Casey Mize, the Auburn pitcher provides a very solid all-around pitching skill set. His pitches, of course, includes a mid-90s fastball, a quality slider, and an improving changeup. He uses these pitches to constantly keep runs off the board, and although he may be in the smaller end at being a clean 6 feet, the Yankees drafted him back in 2017 as a high schooler, so they must have not seen it as a problem then. So for the final pick of this video, the Dodgers have had a lot of success in developing prospects, mostly coming from the college level. Of course, we all know that the Dodgers are a good all-around team, so looking at the MLB level for needs is useless. They have a pretty balanced farm system as well, so the smart move would be to look into either best available or high potential, as they have the security for that. So when going high potential, I have the Dodgers taking Slade Cecconi. Cool name aside, Cecconi is armed with a quality mid-90s fastball, a just as great slider, and a developing curveball and changeup. His velocity is the main player in his high potential, but maintaining his pitches late into games is where he runs into trouble. The Dodgers have a strong pitching system though, so they have the security to see if his stuff will play out as a starter.